Hello,
Hello.
hello, hello. We
Hello.
are live.
Yes, we are. Welcome back to another lovely episode of Beyond the Sum of Our Parts. As you can see in our panel here, we got some lovely guests with us. We got Zen coming in from Texas. We got Joy from Florida and Kai Miko from Florida as well. And today we have a lovely, interesting topic. Jordan, what is that topic for today?
Today we are talking about faith under fire, unveiling spiritual manipulation. Here we go. So, with that being said, welcome to all of our wonderful guests. Thank you all for leaning in with us today. And just to get this started, get the ball rolling, if you want to just tell us briefly about your experience or your perception of spiritual manipulation.
And no one, please don't rush. It's no perform. So please don't be scared. Feel free.
Okay, so I guess I have had a very extensive spiritual experience. I was in Catholic school up until eighth grade, and that's a lot of manipulation just right there
Wow.
because
Yeah.
very much indoctrination. Then I left that and got into the non-denominational world, and I actually ended up going into ministry as a youth pastor. And there's a lot of manipulation when you get on the that side of the audience. I guess you're not in the audience anymore, but you're in the
Yeah.
leadership. And then being a public figure, working with a lot of community organizations, there are times when different spiritual forces want to use my platform or want to try to, in a sense, guilt me into
Yeah.
supporting what they're doing spiritually, rather than it just being a let's feed the homeless, let's get school supplies to the kids, let's make sure people
Right.
have a food drive. Meeting the needs of people, it becomes a spiritual battle for minds and hearts. So, I mean, I've had a lot of experience with spiritual manipulation. And I can also say that when I was going through my domestic violence situation, there was a lot of push for me to stay
Yeah.
coming from the church because we don't need another black family that's going through divorce. We don't need another set of kids that are going to be in a single household. Doesn't matter what he's doing that's putting you in danger. You're the good
Right.
Christian woman. You need to stay and you need to believe that fasting and prayer is going to fix this.
So everything was
So
focused on the optics versus
yeah,
the
so there was
actual
I've been
safety.
through a lot of spiritual manipulation in my life.
Wow.
That yeah, that's good. Kudos to you for the lineage, and sorry about the whole spiritual manipulation in that aspect of it. I can definitely attest to that same, not so much as the abuse factor, but I can definitely attest being an island person. um it is definitely a you're the child of the devil if you don't obey certain ways of being. They call you Satan, which is the devil, son of the devil, a child of the devil. When you are different, you're not following the way of the Lord to their eyes and to their way of being. So, there's that, oh, you're gonna go to hell, they quote unquote, you're gonna go to hell, God doesn't love you, those kind of things, where they try to make you feel bad and guilty for being yourself. And it was like it's like we did a podcast, did an episode last week in regards to that, where it plays a part where you're fighting within yourself, trying to be who you are, but then you're trying to decide, should you do what the church tells you what to do,
Mm.
or should you be true to yourself? And then, rather than the church saying, hey, God loves you for who you are no matter what, they're shaming you, they're making you feel
Mm.
guilty, they're making you feel like you're not worthy of love, you're not worthy of
Right.
acceptance, because you're not doing it in the way they see and deem to
Right.
be fit. And for me, I shunned away from the church a very long time, like a lot of us did, because we were brought up in the church as kid, and it was like it was never met with joy for me. It was always like punishment. It's like, oh, I gotta go to church on Sunday. And then it wasn't like, oh, it's not like, oh, I didn't want to pray to God. It was just like it was met with beatings. Man, it was like, yo, you're not gonna embarrass me in front of the Lord, and you're not gonna embarrass me in front of the congregation. I'm like, but why do we care? Why are we putting up a front for people when we're all not happy? And the way they teach things is not the best. But they feed on that where they're like, oh, I remember in high school they were like, my sister had asked me, she was like, um, I need you to help me. I need you to give me some money to help the pastor get a new car. Excuse me? Help the pastor get a new car with my money? I don't think it worked like that. I don't think it works like that. Oh, we need to help her get a new house. I don't think it works like that. I don't think it works like that for me. Because there's people
Yeah.
catching the bus going to the church. There's people
Yeah.
who's on Section 8 can't even afford a house, but you're telling me to help chip in and get the pastor a house and a car. I don't think it works like that for me. But you know what I mean? Again, depending on what church you go to, depending on what denomination or group you're in, it is that, man. I felt very bad about it, that it's not about actually helping and saving people and doing good. They have so much ability and powers to do it, but it's, to me, it's, yeah, it's a great manipulation tool to get people to do what you want. I look at it that way.
Thank you. Joy, did you have anything that you wanted to
Well,
contribute?
yeah, well, it comes to spiritual manipulation. Like the way I grew up was more like everything was very strict. And the scripture that came to mind was, don't quote me on where it came from, but it was bad association spoils useful habits, right? So growing up, it was like if somebody was not within the congregation or you weren't associating with anybody within the congregation, it was frowned upon because outside sources, basically, if you were fraternizing with everybody from the outside, they could pretty much tell you what you're being taught and what you know is wrong. So once you keep it all on the inside, can nobody tell you what you know and everything is wrong because that's all you know. So you have no
Right.
choice but to follow in line with what it is that they're saying. But once you step outside of that, it's like you have this aha moment where it's like,
Right.
oh, but wait, I was taught this, but I was taught that. And this is really not that bad. And it's not that bad as it seems to be. But they keep you so secluded, it gives culty vibes. They keep you so secluded to where that's all you know. You only can hang out with those people. You can only be
Right.
married within that congregation. You could, everything is stayed within. So anything outside of that is frowned upon. So for me, the manipulation is you're basically having this dangle of this promise of paradise, like a horse with a carrot in front of them, dangled in front of you. And anytime you steer wrong from the path that you're supposed to go on, it's like, oh, you're not going to see your loved ones ever again, or oh, you're never going to live for an eternal, for life forever. And it's like it almost like a fear factor. It scares you into being obedient. It scares you into just staying the course and doing whatever it is that they say.
Yeah. And in listening to all of your commentaries about, the brief introduction to your experience with spiritual manipulation, the thing that comes up for me from a mental health perspective is that everybody's descriptive. They talk about the guilt, they talk about the shame, you talked about the isolation. All of those things remind me of the same traits as like a abusive relationship with an individual, but just on a grander scale. You talked about that isolation, the same thing with abusive relationships. They don't want you to be communicating with anybody on the outside because then that person on the outside will tell you this doesn't look right. You're not allowed to question things. If you do, then something's wrong with you. It's not the relationship that's the problem, it's you're the problem. That sense of guilt and shame as a means for control within the relationship. So it's very interesting how everybody has had different experiences, but they're all the same kind of underlying themes within them. But with that being said, spiritual manipulation is such a complex issue. And in you all's experience, how did it initially begin in your religious groups? Was it something like, was there ever, with abusive relationships, there's like this honeymoon period where things are great and everything's great and everybody's happy. And then it transitions as you get comfortable into the craziness. Was there ever a period like that for you all, or how did it manifest? What was the beginning like?
I'm gonna just go real quick. For me, it was when my sister was like, I need money to help the pastor thing. And then the turning point was when she talked everybody into cutting their hair, but she still was walking around with a perm. I was like, it's a cult.
Wait. She talked everybody into cutting their hair for what?
All the women just went natural, which is great. I support it. But she wasn't rocking it the same. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. But It is. And then it just it was like as you got older. Now, mind you, in the coming up as an islander, growing up in the church, you start to develop your own way of thinking and being. And as you're not going anymore, you're fighting against your parents about it. It's like you're realizing, yo, if you're telling me God loves me for who I am this way, but then you're telling me he's a forgiving, loving God, but then he's a vengeful, jealous, non-forgiving, it, it is he human? Is he flawed like the rest of us? Because he's not supposed to be that way. So
Yeah, he's
you're saying
unchangeable.
one thing, and that's what it got to me. I was like, you can't say, and it would always be me and my cousin. You remember, Wise. So we would always talk about it. It's like, how can you say this, but then say this? And it's
Yeah.
like something in the pudding ain't right.
Yeah.
And it was like when we sat down, we talked about it, and we had that discussion. It was like, bro, we got bamboozled.
That's one way to put it. Yeah.
For me, you asked if there was a honeymoon period, and there was later on when I was growing up in the Catholic Church, we went to mass as part of school, and they don't even have Bibles in Catholic Church. They give you a missalette. They give you this book that has short passages. So I had actually never been exposed to the Bible until I became a teenager, and I left the Catholic Church. So I would read these passages, and I would hear, the minister, or the priest, they call him a priest, preach on these passages. But even as a child, I'm in elementary school, and I'm asking questions like, okay, so God put them in the garden with a tree they weren't supposed to eat, and the punishment for eating that is death.
Right.
There's no other there's no, it's no warning,
Right.
no little
Right.
minimum punishment. And I'm thinking, even as a child, who is going to put their children in a situation where if they make this one mistake, they die? Like, and they don't have an answer for me because it was a test. That's the answer.
Yeah,
Well,
Mm-hmm.
DCF will
praise
be
God.
knocking on the doors. DCF will be knocking on the doors.
Right.
That's what that
So,
is. That's what that is.
so I'm, even as a child, like, that makes no sense. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that if I were a parent.
Right.
And I'm supposed to believe this parent loves me.
Yes.
So even as a child, I'm having all these questions, and I'm saying this doesn't make any sense. But I'm told that me thinking that is sinful because I'm trying to understand a big, huge God with my human brain. But I'm thinking, if he's a big, huge God, then everything he does should make sense. And then you tell me about the devil, and the devil's followers are going to be sent to the lake of fire or hell. But the devil's just going to get to roam the earth.
Yeah.
So you're punishing the followers, but not the thing they're following.
Right. Right.
And so as a child, I'm like, this makes no sense. But you're told that you're wrong. And if you don't accept this, like he said, or she said, you're going to go to hell. So it wasn't till I got to be a teenager and I left the Catholic Church where I was introduced to this idea of Jesus died for you and Jesus loves you. And if you were the only person on the earth, he would have died just for you. And that was such a romantic idea. Like, my life is so worth saving that God sent his son to suffer and die just for me. Just for me. That was such a big thing, even though it's crazy, again, that this God wants to just kill people that are following him.
Yeah. Right.
It's crazy. But at the time, at 15, I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever had anybody love me that was willing to die for me. That sounds amazing. And so I kind of fell in love with Jesus and not God. So I think that's a whole nother thing, is that a lot of people fall in love with Jesus, this person walking around healing the sick, raising the dead, giving food away, and they leave God over there because God is this thing that you're like, what in the heck is going on with him? He seems kind of homicidal.
Yeah, it's
and
uncomfortable.
He just killed the whole earth with a flood.
Right.
So it's like, you're like, I'm going to leave God alone. But Jesus, I could get with.
I can rock with him, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that is where the honeymoon period was, when I just kind of put God to the side and said, I love Jesus. Jesus is the one that's walking with me and talking with me and trying to show me that he's here for me. I can do that. So that was my honeymoon period. but the God problem never got solved. So
Yeah.
eventually, when I had to come back to the God problem, that's when I had to say, I can't rock with this because I can't accept this type of God. Because as he was saying, if he's omniscient and omnipowerful, why doesn't he get rid of the devil? Why doesn't he get rid of war?
Right.
Why does evil even exist?
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So those kind of questions I didn't have any answers to. And eventually I had to say, no, I don't believe in any of that. I believe in divine laws. Okay. I believe there's a creator and there's divine laws, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but not the God the way he's portrayed in the Bible.
Right.
Jordan, you
Right.
see Carmico's message?
No.
I did. I was listening. I got it. But she said,
Okay.
"We're
As a new
responsible."
convert, I am learning that we are responsible for our own relationship. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Definitely.
hold
I
on.
felt that way.
With God, I'm learning that we have to limit our thought process that God is anything like man. That puts me at ease. Yeah.
Like, if we're talking about the honeymoon phase, for me, my whole life was the honeymoon phase, so to speak. So it wasn't until I really started paying attention to when I started going to school and really paying attention to what other kids were doing, what other kids were learning, and then realizing that, like I said before, everything was just encircled within the same group. There was no outside anything. Then as soon as I did step foot outside, it was like, what are you doing? Why are you out there? Are you having sex? Are you getting pregnant? And it was just like, no. And then to pacify all that, it was like, okay, let me just do what they want. I went and got baptized. I did all the things that they wanted me to do, but at the same time, it still wasn't enough because, like, oh, you're supposed to be the role model, you're supposed to be the leader, you're supposed to show these other girls an example and everything like that. And it was just like, why is all this weight being put on my shoulders when I know plenty of these adults? They're having adulterous relations. There's
Hmm.
one sister is beating up on this brother, and it's just like this is not the type of lifestyle that I want for myself. So after a while, it's
Right.
like you start opening your eyes to a lot of things and everything.
Oh
Ooh,
no.
she was going good. I'll say this though, what the tag on what Kaimiko said about the relationship, it wasn't one. It was I didn't realize that until I started about having your own relationship with God, being who you are, and understanding that He accepts you for who you are, and your relationship with Him is your relationship, not everyone else's. And it wasn't until I had this job at this hospital I was working at where they do prayer all the time, and I saw everybody with different personalities, different ways of being. And there was one person who was kind of sort of like me, into anime and films and that nature. And for the longest, I felt like you couldn't do anything. You couldn't be in the films. You couldn't be in the anime. You couldn't be into anything but God. And have anything else other than that is disrespectful to Him. You don't love Him fully, and you're a washout. But then it was like seeing all these people having all these different things going on. It was like, yo, this is how it's supposed to be. This is like it was that moment that brought me back into the fold, I would say. Not as heavy, but understanding that he is a parent, and like all parents, you got different kids, and you gonna basically love your kids the way they need to be loved in their own way, in their own right. The church ain't teaching that.
Hmm.
The church is saying everybody got to be one way across the board. Everybody needs to be one fit, one dynamic, nothing more, nothing else. And so it was in that moment when I realized that what I've been taught for so long wasn't the best. It opened up my eyes to realize that my relationship with God is my relationship. He created me. He knows who I am. He knows my heart. He knows my spirit. And I need to take faith in that. And anyone else that has a contradiction to that, they're not telling the truth, because as a parent, if he's our parent for all of us, that's his role. He loves us equally as individuals. He wants us to do our best, but at the end of the day, he understands that we're still work in progress as individuals. You know what I mean? And that to me was like the best feeling I ever had. And it was just like a great sigh of joy and relief to feel that way, to see that I could still be myself and still be loved and accepted, and not, and you know what I'm saying, understand the whole ground to the truth of how he's trying to be and what he wants us to be. You know what I mean?
I want to comment on Kamiko's, but I also want Joy. Did you finish what you were saying? I know you got cut off.
Yeah, I was. I guess my camera and microphone doesn't want to work together, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. So I did have a question for you. You were saying in the school, did you go to a Christian school as well, like Zen, or a religious school? Maybe not Christian.
No, I went to a regular public school, but
Okay.
as I grew up, it was like when you're elementary and probably a little bit into middle, you're just like not really paying attention to the inside and outside parts of it. But when you get into high school and you see other people who are supposed to be like you, but now
Right.
they're in the high school and it's just like, wait, you one of us? Like this is how you
Right.
acting? And it's just like, oh, okay. And it starts like everybody starts leading double lives.
Right. That
So
that
when
is
you
a
have to
perfect way
start
to put it.
leading a
Yeah.
double life, it's like, how secure in your spirituality are you?
Right. And that goes into what Kaimika was saying. She was talking about. This was the last thing that we didn't get to. Yeah. So God is nothing like man, but we cannot even wrap our mind around something beyond man. And then Zen, I love the fall in love with Jesus concept. That was genius. Church people are not mystical creatures that come out on Sundays, though some of them act like they are.
Right?
They are the rude lady in the DMV. They are the nice girl at Chick-fil-A drive-thru. They are the Chick-fil-A, go figure. They are that Karen in Walmart. Why do we expect the church to be different people than the community? And then the last thing she said was, I'm glad that you got that newfound concept that brought you comfort, Mike. Great. Yeah. And that's, you know, the Bible, as it was written, intended church to be the community, not to be a separate other entity. And I think that's part of the problem and why we have these spiritual manipulation and control issues, because instead of the church being the community, it's like the church is here, the community is here, and we need all the people to be over here in the church. And if you're not, then you're dirty, then you're less than, then you're all of these things, untouchable, right? Like you want to go back to the caste system.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say, I told you that I was, in the sense, behind the scenes because I went to seminary for a semester, well, for a year. And you learn a lot of things if you ever go to Bible school or Bible college. You learn
I also
about,
attended Bible college, so
yeah,
I know what you mean.
you learn how to read the Bible because they teach you to read the Bible. Like you read the same story all across the Bible, so you see the different versions of it, which is a problem. You know what I'm saying? Because if it is a story, it's hard for you to reconcile those versions. They're not the same. They have very big discrepancies. You also learn how the Bible, we have the King James Version, which is the most widely read, is like the 16th version of the Bible. And it has about 25,000 differences from the oldest one that you could put your hands on, which is the Codex Sinaiticus. And you also learn things like when Jesus was walking the earth with his disciples, they were all equal. But when the church was created that's in the Bible, it had to be recreated as a hierarchical system where you had the deacons and the bishops, and because it had to resemble the way that the Romans ruled their people.
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with Christianity. That was not an original tenet of
No,
Christianity,
it's not.
that there would be this hierarchical system. So when you're even looking at the pastor, the assistant pastor, the deacons, the honor board, the usher board, what you're looking at all this stuff, that's not a part of the church.
Right.
That's not the way it was supposed to be organized. So everything that we have been taught is a corruption.
Yeah.
I won't say everything. I would say about 60%
lot.
of what we been taught is a corruption of the way it was originally. And when you learn that in Bible college, put it like this, more people end up atheists or agnostics coming out of Bible college.
That was me.
You know what I'm saying? Because it teaches you how much it has become the word of man and not the word of God.
Right.
So I didn't become an atheist or agnostic coming out of, but I literally left Bible college because I was like, if I stay, I won't be able to stay a part of the church.
Yeah.
If I keep learning what I wanted to do this, like the monkeys, because I didn't want to know anymore. It was too hard to learn what I was and stay a faithful churchgoer. And so I was running away from the truth at that point.
Yeah.
because I wanted to hold on to my faith. And so that's another thing is if you really do learn the truth, most times you won't be able to hold on to your faith, because the truth is that this is a man-made system given by the Romans, and by the Vatican to control the masses. And it's been reorganized to do that.
Right. And
So,
like you said, it comes back to a system of control and power. And even with hierarchy, that is like the ultimate power dynamic. Because if this person is a pastor, what can I say to them?
mm-hmm.
I automatically have a power differential because I have to come to them as subservient.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was my biggest experience in the church. I remember I had a very similar experience to you, except I didn't go to Christian school growing up, but I was raised in the church. And I got baptized and I gave my life to Christ, and I was doing all the things, and I was in ministry, and I was doing all the behind the scenes work. I ended up going to seminary school for a year and a half. And in that time, same thing. It was like the Bible, what is happening with religion and all the church and I could not reconcile the things that I was learning with the things that I had experienced in my life. And then afterwards, I attended this church, and all the feelings that I had had kind of bubbled up in this church because the pastor, who was a very nice man, his wife, I cannot say that she was a very nice woman. And she was literally running people out of the church because her whole focus was on power instead of people.
Mm.
So if you were a young female, if you had education as a female, and it was only the females, if you were a young female, if you had education, if you were anything that intimidated her, she would run you out of the church. You weren't allowed to do any ministry. She would talk to you and treat you like trash. I remember one day I was in a ministry directly with her that I learned firsthand experience. And I remember when I joined the ministry, everybody at the church was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I didn't understand why. I was like, "Yeah, of course. I love health and fitness and all this stuff, and this is perfect." It was a health ministry. And I was super excited. And she apparently was a nurse's assistant or something in her time. And so she was in that ministry also. So I worked hand in hand with her. And I remember sitting at meetings, and she would literally, it was me, her, and one other girl who were leading it. And she would literally talk to the other girl at the table and tell her to tell me something. And I would be like, "What? I'm."
Uh-oh.
Oh wow.
Uh-oh. We lost you for a second.
I'm back. Yes. And that would continue on and continue on. If somebody were to come to me, she would talk over me like I wasn't even talking. Like I did not have any kind of nothing, no power, no nothing. I was just meant to be her servant, do whatever it is she wanted to, as passed on by her secondary servant. And there was this one day we were in a meeting, and she told the other girl something, and I finally said something about it, and she started yelling at me. Like yelling, "Who do I think I am? And I think I'm better than everybody," and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, "What? I haven't even said anything this whole time because y'all act like I'm not here. What do you mean I think I'm better than everybody?" And after it was done, I went to the pastor and I told him about it. And he was like, "Well, she's the leader and you need to do whatever she says." But she's wrong. And this is why nobody's working in ministry. And I went to him. He completely dismissed it. And then the following Sunday, he did a whole sermon about how you need to follow your leadership blindly and how whatever your leadership says goes. And I was just like, wow. All right. Very clear. Thank you. I will no longer be a member of this church. I am not supported. This is all for, a dog and pony show. I'm not interested in it. But that really, for me, the fact that everybody in the church was aware of it, everybody, the first thing everyone in the church said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Everyone was aware of it, but not a single person was doing anything. They were just letting her have this sense of power and control and letting her run people out of the church because that was their power dynamic. And it was just like, how are we building communities? How are we growing people? Because that's the point of the church, to reach the people. This is what's happening.
The sad part about it is that you got to cultivate in the people, like a mass amount of people aware of the situation, one, and two, deadly afraid to check the individual. They forget you, the people, are the reason why they have a building to begin with.
Yeah.
Check the problem or else. And it's just that simple.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about the spiritual manipulation that gets me to the point where it's like sheep. You want sheep. You want to lead the sheep, and the sheep must follow without question.
Yeah.
Sheep, and it was like it was in like I'm a big fan of films, and there's this movie called The Mist with Mark Wahlberg in it, and it's like no, not Mark Wahlberg. Oh my god, I forgot the guy's name. But in the film, it's like a sci-fi film. Anyways, and the one of the people says it's God, and then within a moment, she gets this entire group of people inside the grocery store to basically start wanting to sacrifice people for the sake of God. And I
Yeah.
was like, the sheep. It's the
Yeah.
it's the best tool in the world to get people to go from one area to the next of being the sheep. And it was just sad that it did that. And I myself didn't really care for it to like I noticed that when it was like when it, like you said, Jordan, like you see people telling you, are you okay with this? But no one's actually checking her about it. And that was the thing about the churches, like Zen said. I was brought up in Catholic church, and then we changed and went to the denomination thing, and where we went from a priest to a Catholic to a pastor. And I was just like, all right, cool. I'm a kid. I follow suit. I got no choice. You follow your parents, honor thy mother, thy father, respectfully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Respectfully. No matter what they do or say to you, eat that. You know what I mean? Whether they abuse you in any kind, eat that. Right? Okay, cool. Now you become an adult and you realize, nah, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. The congregation is not for the people, it's for the individuals that are in the hierarchy tier system. Like it
And
doesn't make any sense. And that's one of the things that's like really sad and broken about it in its entirety. The fact that they know they can use that to manipulate people, to get people to bend to their will, even in political attributes and in decision making. It's just like they shouldn't be the same.
yeah, there's a lot of things that you can bring up with the church, because one of the things, when people ask me about my spiritual or whatever, I say, well, I'm not religious. And I said, I'll tell you one of the first reasons: the word religion itself.
Mm-hmm.
The word religion means to bind, like ligature. Okay. ION is the act of. Means again and again and again. So religion
Mm-hmm.
literally means to bind, or the act of binding again and again and again. So literally every time you go to church, they are binding you. They
Mm-hmm.
are restricting you. They are limiting you. They are oppressing you. They are
Mm-hmm.
indoctrinating you into certain limited beliefs. And one of the reasons why I really don't like dating Christian men is a lot of them have a lot of excuses. Well, God's just working on me. I'm waiting on the Lord. Rather than taking responsibility for their lives, they want to pray about it. They want to wait till they feel led. Now, I believe in intuition. I know intuition is a real thing,
Yeah,
but you do have to act. And they seem to forget about, there are scriptures that say faith without works
It's
is dead.
dead.
You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So they want to, well, if God really wanted for me, God's going to make a way. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of platitudes that people say, and they become victims of faith rather than
Yeah.
faith empowering them.
Yeah.
yeah,
And they seem to forget that it's them doing the work, and it's only, in a sense, the spirit working in them and through them. But if they do nothing, they get nothing. And even the whole idea of sowing seed, you got to plant a seed to have a harvest. If you don't plant a
Yeah.
seed, there is no harvest. So there's a lot of people waiting and hoping and praying. Even you'll hear so many people say when there's a shooting or something, I'm sending thoughts and prayers. But
So what are you doing?
those same people right now are planning Operation 2025 to hit the ground running if Trump gets elected, and they got 180 days of plans already lined up to take away the Department of Education, because they don't want people to know, to take away the Department of Health and Human Services. They don't want to have a safe.
TikTok.
Yeah, they don't want to. They want to take away the entire structure of the government
Mm.
and basically make Trump or whatever conservative leader they put in place a demagogue who has complete power. And we are at the mercy of that demagogue, because we don't have, they want to take away women's right to vote. Women's right to get education. They want to take away birth control. You know, they want to take away no-fault divorce, because once we get married, they want to keep us married. And if we happen to get pregnant, they want to make sure we got to have that baby. You know, and they want to claim that all of this stuff is to have a Christian nation, but no, it's to have a controlled people.
Yo,
We
that
feel
is scary
It's
that you
gonna be
said all that
Handmaid's
because
Tale.
yo, I'm not gonna lie. All I can think of the Salem witch trials, the amount of people they
it's the
killed during that
handmaid's
thing.
tale. It's the
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what
handmaid's
Joy
tale,
said.
really.
No, the yo,
Hmm.
nah.
nah, you have. Did you see Handmaid's Tale?
I
It's
have not
all
seen
Handmaid's Tale. It's literally like by the book. That's pretty much what they're pushing for when you really think about it.
it.
Hmm.
But that's and that all comes
Oh my
back
god.
to,
Oh,
like Zen originally was saying, the difference between religion and spirituality,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Religion is
because
focused on this list of laws and rules and all the things you can't do,
right.
versus spirituality, being free and being who you were designed to be, and recognizing that all things are interconnected. And there's just so much. Yeah.
Yes, very
that
much
Like
is
I
so.
would
exactly
rather side with the spirituality aspect because being spiritual means so much different for me like now as an adult because I'm more in tune with the nature aspect because
yes.
yes there was some type of supreme higher power energy that created everything but at the end of the day you have to give reverence to all the nature and everything that you have around you, all the energies that you have around you. You touch your feet to the ground, that's recharging you right there. You go
Right.
to the ocean, you go to the water, you're recharged from that. So you have to give reverence to all those separate energies in itself. It's not just one being. And just like Mike said earlier, you have this jealous person. There's no energy that's going to be jealous like that, especially if they supposedly love you that much. Like
Right.
there's no way. Every energy that surrounds you is positive. It's always going to be positive. When it's good for you, it's always going to be positive.
Right.
You got to make sure to pay attention to films because in films they tell you what they're gonna do to you regardless.
Mm.
Hey, like the Avatar, all of them, the Way of the Water, all of them, they tell you straight up. The first Avatar is all about being one with nature. You don't kill for sport, you kill to survive and eat. You pray over the people, you pray over the animals that you kill. It's all about being one and connected. God teaches that, but you go to the church and you go to and we're talking about spiritual manipulation. It's just like I need a Ferrari, I need a Lamborghini, I need a $2 million home while everybody else is homeless.
Mm.
Makes
Yeah.
no sense to me.
But going
Makes
back to the Native Americans, like that's what they did. If there was an abundance of buffalo out there, they only killed one or two, just
What
enough
they
to
needed.
feed who they needed to feed and what they
Right.
needed. Everything they did was for what they needed. They never did nothing in excess. They were never
Mm.
greedy with anything. But yet now those traditions were looked frowned upon as in like, oh, they didn't know what they were doing. No, they knew exactly what it was they were doing.
Right.
And every time they did anything, they gave reverence to wherever it was that they came from, the water that they got, the rain that they got.
Right.
Everything was appreciated for. And now we're in a society where everything is just greed and you mix religion with politics and now everybody is just greedy and they're just
Mm-hmm.
for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And you know, religion has been used to promote colonialism and
Mm.
patriarchy because if you know anything about enslavement of people, the very first thing that they did when they captured Africans was
Mm-hmm.
go indoctrinate them with the fact that there was a
Give
white
them the
God.
Bible. Mm-hmm.
They gave them a white God, and basically they had never really seen white people. So if you tell them that the God of this land is white and we are his children and you are here to serve us, it makes them feel powerless because how am I going to fight against a white God? And these are his children. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So that was the very first thing they did. The first time Africans heard the name Jesus, it was on a slave ship. That was the name of the first slave ship that took the first slaves to the colonies, was Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so religion has been used to promote colonialism, patriarchy. I mean, the whole idea that this is funny. You say in the Bible, right, that God put Adam to sleep and took his rib and made Eve. Well, if that is the truth, genetically, it would not be Adam and Eve, it would be Adam and Steve. Because if you take a rib from somebody, the DNA inside of that rib
Still
is
male.
male.
Mm-hmm.
So that story doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
You know, man came from a womb, not from a rib. And the whole idea that women were created as a helpmeet and are lesser than men is a whole nother problem. You know?
Yeah. Again, the manipulation factor digs deep in its rooted. Like Kaimiko said, she appreciates the convention and the negative aspects of that comes from the belief. God wants to be thanked. He wants to be thanked and appreciated and glorified for it, and that's the reality of it. He wants to be thanked.
But
And
that's the thing. That's under the assumption that God has human-like attributes. People want to be made feel like they're being thanked or grateful, gratitude, whatever. God is all-knowing, omniscient, all-powerful.
No, and you're right, but at the same point in time, it's like, we can say that, but then at the same point in time, rarely do we see like, you'll see a glimpse of moments of like for years we're taught that cats and dogs can't be together, but then you'll see them play together. For years you see animals that are prey on other animals, but then think they're prey for saving them or helping them. I mean, it's I guess animalistic nature to think.
Mhm.
Think someone for think someone for helping you and all of those kind of things. I'm not trying to, I don't know how to word it properly. That's the thing. My mind is just, but yeah, it's just like it's like you said, God is an all-being person, but at the same point in time, he's still a being. He may not be human, he's still a being. No matter what, it's still a being. Do you not think Mother Earth for the vegetables that are planted in the air that we breathe in every now and again, once in a blue moon? It's like us taking a breath in is a formality of
We
speech.
should be grateful for the life and spirit around us.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, like, if I say thank you to my dog doesn't understand me saying thank you. My dog just understands the positive energy that I'm sending with my gratitude, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that should be more the focus than I am saying thank you to this being and this being is receiving it and now they're blessing me because no, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't know.
No, but no, I get where you're coming from on that too. I get where you're coming from. Like I said, it's still in a roundabout way, like you said, in the energy perceives itself to be thankfulness, right? In the way you give off in the energy, and like the manipulation factor, as we're going back onto it, it's like the manipulation factor runs deep into the fact of like how Zen said, the suppression of women. Women came from a rib of a man, the helpmate, you're gonna stay here no matter what happens because you came for me. This is your position and nothing more. You cannot excel past this. And if you do, Salem's witch trial, you're being burned at the stakes. Okay. If you survive from this drowning in this fire, you're a witch. But if you die, God shall bless you.
But
But that's also like a man thing too.
Yo,
So
really.
I mean, no shade, but honestly, when you really think about it, the Bible has been rewritten how many
Patriarchy.
different times, and all of the majority of them have been men. When you think about the amount of books that have been omitted from the Bible, like who decides what and what needs to stay? Who decides what and what needs to be inside the Bible? You talk about Adam and Eve, but the original wife was Lilith. But nobody wants to talk about that part of it. So really, it's like who's really writing the Bible? All these thoughts and everything. Yes, everybody can get mad, but it was men that did this because they didn't want to have women ruling over them. The whole story with Lilith was because she ruled over Adam. Adam wanted somebody that would be submissive to him. She said no because we were made the same. We were on
We're
equal playing
equals.
fields.
Yeah.
He did not like that. Hence why she was kicked out of Eden, got the Garden of Eden, and then Eve was made from Adam. So now Adam was like, okay, now you are really under me.
Right.
And the aspect of that is very bad because it, like you said, it's
I
written
wanted to
by
answer.
men. It's
I
written
see
by
Kamiko
men.
asking Lilith. Okay, if you go back to the Bible, Kamiko, there's two creations because I'm gonna have to leave in just a minute. There's two creations. The first creation I believe is in Genesis 2, and it said that on I think the fifth day, God created man and woman and put them in the garden to dress it and keep it. That's literally the scripture. And then you have the next day, which it tells us that a day is as 1,000 years with God, right? The
Put Adam
next
to
day,
sleep.
it says that Adam went out into the garden and he's naming all the animals, but he doesn't find anybody for him. Well, if man and woman were already put in the garden, why didn't he find anybody for him? And then it says that God put Adam to sleep, took a rib from him, and made Eve. All right. And Adam named her because she didn't even have a name. He named her once she gave birth and said, "You are the mother of everything living. I will name you Eve." So she was even brought to him with no name, with no identity, and he gave her the name.
And he
So
had to be the
in
man to
Jewish
give it to her.
mysticism, in Jewish folklore, when you have Cain and Abel later kicked out of the garden, and it says Cain went to the land of Nod and got a wife.
Right. Where did these
That's
people come
all
from?
the children that Adam and Lilith had already created a whole land. And when he went to go get a wife, there was already a group of people that he could go and intermarry with. So that's why people that don't know that whole story, they're like, well, where did Cain's wife come from? Lilith and Adam.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to actually go outside of what we have in the King James Version to understand that. And the whole thing with Lilith is she was kicked out of the garden because she refused to submit to Adam, but also she, in Jewish mysticism, it says that she spoke the true name of God. And that meant that she had the power, she had a power of knowledge that was so powerful, she got kicked out, and she basically got, in a sense, condemned to be the seducing spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they have the Lilith fair and all that stuff now to basically, in a sense, remember the divine feminine, and basically this whole idea that women were originally equal and they were kicked out of the garden because they wouldn't submit, and so that's the whole thing with Lilith, right?
Love Kyrie, justice for Lilith.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing.
Hashtag
I'm going to have to go. I have another podcast to go to, but thank you guys
so
much.
much.
Thank you for coming on, Zen. We appreciate the knowledge and tutelage you giving us all today.
Yes.
As you can see, Kaimiko learned a lot. We'll probably do a part 2 to this. Thank you for coming. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Take care, Zen. Joy, did you have anything else you wanted to add on to that?
No, this has been fun.
We're not done yet. We still got
okay.
time.
All right, bet.
Yeah, we're not done yet. No, but there you go. The manipulation goes back way before our time, and they're not aware that it's like a ripple in the pond, bro. You dropped it in there, and it's creating a cascade effect of a lot of suffering. Salem witch trial was like the worst thing you could ever do to women, and it was predominantly attacking women who had their own.
And then stemmed from the men. It was the men saying like, "Oh, she know too much. Oh, I done slept with somebody else against my wife, and she saw me, so now she's a witch." And oh, she predicted the weather. Like you can smell the rain coming. Oh, it's gonna rain. Oh, she's a witch. Like they just found every and anything to say that this person's a witch just to cover up their own tracks.
No, and that's the sad part about it. The manipulation runs deep. It runs so deep, and it's so sad that that people still stand strong on it today, and they still follow in that suit, and they still. Now, I'm not going to say all preachers are like that. I'm not going to say all congregations and pastors and priests are like that, but when they do try to go against and they do try to repair it, they're often shunned and ostracized by their own community of people for trying to rewrite the wrong.
But that's because the desire for power runs deep. For as long as humans have been humans, there has been this fight for power from our own places of insecurity. And so as long as that continues to be a thing, that religion is always going to continue to be a thing, because religion, the system as it's built, supports power dynamics.
Yeah.
So as long as you are somebody's follower, there is a power dynamic. And a lot of people don't like to think of it that way, but it is. Yeah. You're always going to be under somebody, at somebody else's tutelage. There's never going to be a point where you have reached equality.
Yeah, the Catholic Church did that, Kaimiko. They don't talk about it, but yeah, it's just like a whole bunch of other things that they did back in the day where,
the Catholic Church also supported slavery.
All of that. So, you know what I mean? It came from the church. It led for the torture that people have suffered throughout decades came from the church. Wars were made over land that didn't belong. Israel is still fighting it right now, as you can see. People, children are dying off of a man's story being told in falsehood, where it's okay to kill infidels, it's okay to commit mass murder for the sake of God, for the sake of their own beliefs, for their sake.
Yeah.
And it's like the manipulation runs deep.
But that's
And
the thing. If the Bible says thou shalt not kill, right? But then you turn around, you can't kill, but only unless you're killing for me, then that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's not how
how it
that
works,
thing
bro.
works.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works. And that's where it's like, yo, I believe in God, right? I believe in the spirit and everything else like that, the Holy Spirit and all of that. And I believe in learning from the Quran and learning from Hinduism and Buddhism. They all say the same thing. They're just saying it in different formalities. And the one thing, if you look at it and you go back to it, they all have overlapping messages that kind of like stem the same, where it's all the root of point of is like doing good for people. But then a man, you could tell where the man part comes into it, and I'm gonna use that because 100%, a certain person of the man wants to be power hungry, wants to be power dynamic, wants to lead. Once you get that sense of leadership, it's kind of like how Trump is quiet. He wasn't a quiet guy, but he was a guy behind the scenes. Nobody cared about who he was, right? He was this hotel mogul guy, and then he became president, and he likes the audience. He wants to feed off the audience. He doesn't care what he says. He doesn't care what he puts out. He just likes the attention. And that's where to me, that's where the whole religious aspect comes from. Because it's like you got people falling off like they're on the tip of your tongue and they eating everything you saying, and you love that attention. You love that. It's like the best feeling in the world. They ain't never been a broke pastor, preacher, priest, but however, Jesus ain't never had no money.
But then also with the manipulation part of it comes, look at the people who really be head over heels following in this. It's
Yeah.
almost like they have nothing to lose. Everything, they
Yes.
have given up on everything. So
This is
now you
all I
have these
have.
pastors, priests, and all that. They hone in on that. They prey on that. So now you
Vulnerable.
have
Yep.
them. That's how they're able to, pay your tithes. And they're literally giving their last with the hopes of, God is going to reward me and everything because this is what the pastor said. They literally are preying on these individuals because they see within them that there is no hope. They have nothing
Yeah.
left. They don't lost to everything. This is all there is. This congregation is all there is. These are the ones that they clutch onto. These are the ones that become the diehard faith believers and run out there, bring everybody in, and oh yes, this is great. And then they see other like individuals that's like themselves out in the community and latch onto them and bring them in. And so therefore it becomes a whole like domino effect of manipulation.
When you
Right. And
hear,
that's because religion, one of the biggest things that religion brings is hope. So if you are somebody who has nothing, who is the vulnerable, most vulnerable of our population, what do you need? You need hope. Because my life
that's
sucks
it.
right now, and this is the only thing that I have to hold on to. But then
Exactly.
religion also brings connection. I have this instant family, this instant community that now I'm a part of something, which is also a human desire. We want to belong,
Yep.
right? So now I have hope. I feel like all the things are going to work out, even if they don't work out in this life. I could die poor, but in the next life, I'm going to be set.
I'm winning. I'm
And I
winning.
have this
I
community.
gotta suffer now, so I can get
Right.
that promised land next. Not
Yeah,
even guaranteed.
no.
I gotta suffer right now. I gotta
Yeah,
go through
no.
the mud while some people got 4 or 5 cars sitting in their driveway and it's off the backs of everybody else.
Right.
But I gotta suffer right now in order for me to go to the promised land. Well, I
Right.
get my 12 versions and unlimited cheeseburgers, and I'm not, and I won't be,
Okay.
and won't affect my
I
daily.
had one lady tell me because I wanted to go into healthcare. And she said, well, why do you want to do that? We're not going to need any nurses or doctors when we get into paradise. And I'm like, yo, what? Like just knocking down any dream that I had of even being successful, all
So then
because of religion. Like,
what
oh,
did
you
she
should
want you to
donate
be
to,
then?
she wanted me to have my time going into the service and donating my pioneer time and go preach the word and
Oh, okay.
all of that stuff instead of going to college because I said I want to go to college. I want to become a nurse. She said, "Why do that? You're not going to need it when you get into paradise." And I'm like, "What? But we need it now." Like that's what we need right now. Who cares about paradise way off in the future? This is what's needed right now. But y'all so focused on what's to happen, what's going to come,
The
but
future.
y'all not living for right now.
Well,
Realistically,
except the rich ones, they're living for, they're getting all the
well,
right now.
well, yeah, the rich ones they making off like a bandit.
Right. Right. Based on people's hopes for the future. Yeah. Give all your money now so we can live and enjoy it, and you just focus on the future.
The
But
diabolical aspect of it all is right, Kaimiko. Yes, that it's
yeah.
very 100% diabolical, and it preys on those that on us. And I'm not gonna lie, I was lost. I'm not gonna lie, and I found myself, and I'll never forget when I was lost and I was going through it with my family and my brother or whatever.
Mhm.
This lady came to me and preaching about God and everything. I said, I'm good. But the way she was so nasty. I mean, he's not your father, he's my father. You going to hell, I'm going to heaven. Because you not following the way that I'm following and how I'm like, yo, I ain't gonna lie. Mendem was just in my feelings, bro. After that, in my feelings taint. And then, like I said, lucky for me, came to the realization, found a new way of loving and being accepted. But yo, there are people out there like that, and they prey on that, and they feed off that. And I think the term is called zealots or something like that. Yo, they don't know how to. There's no chill for them. They're on 10. Oh, you gotta sacrifice this person. You gotta sacrifice that. I'm like,
And
I
those to me are the worst ones because they'll be the first ones to say, "Oh, I'm praying for you." No, please don't. Because one, I don't know what kind of energy you coming forth from
Right.
to even be praying for me. I don't want you speaking nothing above me. Don't do any of that. I'll handle everything on my own, in my own time, in my own terms. Please don't do nothing for me.
just straight up.
So, with that being said, that's not to say that all religious people and all religions are bad. You know,
No,
everything is on a spectrum.
No.
right.
But there are some that you gotta be careful because the manipulation is real. And so, with that, looking back, are there any warning signs that you want that you wish you would have recognized earlier that might help others to identify spiritual manipulation? What are some warning signs that
Isolation.
could?
Isolation. As soon as they start telling you, just worry about what's in here and keeping you
Right.
within, the isolation part is the biggest thing because once they isolate you, it's like there's no way of reaching you because as soon as they block off any contact with you, family, friends, whatsoever,
Yeah.
they can feed you whatever information they want to, especially if they know you're vulnerable. So that
Right.
isolation part, if you start seeing that and they start really cracking down on how much time you're spending with people on the outside, that's definitely a red flag.
Yeah, for sure.
For
And can
me,
I
I'm just
piggyback off of that real quick with the
go ahead.
isolation? Not just physical isolation, but also mental as well. If
Mental,
you're
yes.
just like in the Catholic Church where they don't give you a Bible, you just read from the stuff that they printed off that they gave you. If you're not able to ask questions and explore
Yes.
and have somebody who's actually going to address those things, that mental
Yeah.
isolation,
Yeah.
that's a huge red flag. If you can't
Yep.
ask questions, not it. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mike.
you ask a question.
I'm gonna say it like this though, the things you should pay attention to. Remember, I believe firmly God is within all of us, Allah, Christian, whatever. And doing good for people is the source that all of them preach on. Every last one of them say, do good for people, do to others, help others. Stick your guns to that. Anyone else that's telling you otherwise than that makes you feel like anything other than that, that's the red flag. That's
Right.
when they're trying to get you to do something else outside of that. Because at the end of the day, we're all good people. We may get lost, but we understand the kindness in our hearts. We definitely will sometimes lose our way and to a very even crazy degree. But caring for people, being kind to people is the number one key and aspect of it.
Yeah.
Anyone suggesting otherwise or trying to make you feel different from being that, no matter what you are, no matter how you move, no matter how you conduct yourself, is not a good person in my eyes, because the whole purpose of all of these religion is that basically we are It's to get us together to help each other grow and prosper, not to
Yeah.
not to basically tower over anyone. We're supposed to be leveling up together, not separately. Not ha ha ha. I'm here. No,
Mm-hmm.
I got my 5 houses over here and 18 cars, but keep sending your tithes and offerings because I need that money. You know what I mean? Nah, it ain't even supposed to be like that. It's not. So, what is it?
Yeah. Kaimiko says damnation for the LGBTQ plus community. They start there with the judgments and it will never stop. Red flag for me. And that's for sure. And to piggyback off of that, like Jesus said himself, the ultimate commandment is to love God and to love people, right? Love God, love your neighbor. And what it really comes down to is recognizing my favorite love is not sacrifice. If you have to sacrifice your anything, your who you are, what how you navigate through the world, your authenticity, if you have to sacrifice people, like she was talking about the LGBT community, the whole purpose of spirituality is that we are one, right? So if I'm cutting people off and sacrificing them because they don't fit this mold that some person has created for me, that's a red flag. That's just my opinion. Because Jesus didn't, what did he say? He was with the least of us. He was hanging out with the prostitutes and all the people that everybody else felt like they were dirty and unworthy, because those people he knew were worthy of love and acceptance, regardless of what they were doing and how the church perceived them and all the things. So, anyways, with that being said,
George's
any
favorite
last
catchphrase.
minutes?
I'm getting a T-shirt made. With that being said,
Yes, in a mug. Any last minute thoughts or feelings before we wind out of this episode? Thank you so much, Joy, for leaning in with us. Thank you, Kaimiko, for leaning in with us.
Zen, thank you for coming on.
Yes.
We appreciate you. Everybody else that was supposed to come on that didn't come on, we understand. If anything, we'll do a part
Still
two.
appreciate you.
We still appreciate you attempting. And for all of our listeners, we appreciate you. Like, subscribe. Remember, the subscription does not mean you have to pay. Like, subscribe, follow Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of these things. And we will be posting this shortly. And again, be kind to people.
Yes. So remember, as always, our goal is not to dictate anything, no conclusions, but to encourage open and honest communication, to understand the people around us, the world around us, but most importantly, to understand ourselves. Oh, wait, hold on. There we go. Boop. So we invite you to keep the conversation going. If you have any questions or if you have a differing opinion, we are always open to that. We love to hear diversity. We love to hear other people's experiences. Thank you for leaning in and going beyond the sum with us. Until next time.
I bid you adieu. Thank you. Goodbye.